Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade.
We chronicled the distinct memories of our childhood in our book, While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s, which takes you on a notably historic journey through that often forgotten decade. We also want to hear about your experiences during the 1950s. We will feature guests whose special stories of that decade will bring to mind magical moments of reflection, some with tears, some with smiles, but above all, a good dose of laughter.
We would like you to chat with us as we bring to mind the sights and sounds so familiar to that time in history. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, everyone, friends and relatives and newbies. We're so happy that you're joining us again on our 1950s Fun Chat. Number 43. This is going to be in the books pretty soon, and we just love talking about the 1950s. Sometimes Jackie and I have guests on, more than likely that happens, but other times we just like to take a brief little interlude and share our thoughts and our specific memories about the 50s. Now, of course, they recorded our book, and Jackie can tell you a little bit more about that.
Well, first of all, I would like to have you peruse your screen and note on the bottom, there's a website that's running across the bottom in that purple banner, www.whilethewindmillwatch.com. That is the site where you can go to find all sorts of information about our book, about the authors, and about this 1950s Fun Chat. If you open the first page, up in the upper right-hand corner, it says 1950s Fun Chat. Click on that, and you'll be able to see all of the fun chats that we've had. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the upper right-hand corner where you see a book called While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s. And notice that it has a beautiful North Dakota sunset, which wraps around the back. And the front illustrates a windmill silhouette and two little girls. And that pretty much tells what goes on in the book. Also, you notice there's a little white spot there. That is a little medallion that indicates an award we received this April about it won the distinguished favorite in the regional section. And again, you'll find more information about that. But we want to just continue on here. And without further ado, let's go to our topic.
Oh, our topic today, Jackie. Maybe if our viewers hear this, they'll understand what our topic is going to be today. Cookie, lend me your comb. Cookie. Does anyone remember that song from the 1950s? I watched a video recently of the remembrance of it when it went live on American Bandstand, Dick Clark's American Bandstand back in the 1950s. And I believe it was Sandra Dee and Ed Burns, who was the heartthrob star on 77 Sunset Strip, who sang that song. And by refreshing your mind, and Jackie, maybe you remember this too, that actually Sandra Dee was not after the comb that Cookie was using. He kept combing his pompadour back, and of course it was a slick back, greased up hairstyle back then. And he was a popular television star, and so he wanted to look his best for all the chicks in the audience. And of course, the girls were screaming in the audience of American Bandstand. But all she wanted to do was take that comb, give that comb to me. And you know what the reason was, Jackie?
I bet you'll tell me.
I will. She just wanted him to quit combing his hair and to kiss her. Well, how about that? So that's the story of the song Kooky, Kooky, Lend Me Your Comb. And I hope some of you viewers remember that because it was it was a fun time in rock and roll music back then. And so consequently, that song leads us into the discussion today and the chat today, 1950s chat today about hair. And can we ever talk to you about the crowning glory of our bodies is our hair? And right now, this hair needs haircut. And I don't know about any of you out there, but keeping your hair in line is, especially for a woman, has been uh, an art and a craft for years. And sometimes it's just a so what? Who cares? But anyway, there through the 50s, there have been lots of different popular hairstyles. And Jackie, do you have any of that information in front of you about some of those hairstyles?
Certainly, there actually is a whole list of them. You mentioned the pompadour for men, and
Mhm.
the ducktail, and um, for women there was a variety, like from the bouffant all the way down to the pixie. There was a slight fringe. It was short and curly, and of course ponytails. That
Yes.
was the go-to for me anyway. And the guys had sideburns and a flat top,
Well,
and
I think
there were
so many
songs about styles.
so many
There
of those
was
hairstyles were made popular by movie stars and rock and roll stars.
there's
So
a
some
song the one that's it's here comes summer, school is out, oh happy day, and then it goes on. It makes my flat top curl was one of the ending sentences to that.
ah, I didn't
Yeah.
remember that.
Okay. Well, that just came to my mind now. Another was I think this was more in the '60s though. Give me a head with hair, long beautiful hair,
Yep,
shining. That one.
yep,
Yeah. That
yes.
was more,
Well, I think
a
that
lot
was
of songs.
part. Wasn't that part of the musical Hair?
It is right. Mhm.
Yes, and I don't recall when I don't I think it was after the 50s that came out. But oh, going back to ponytails because ponytails are so popular now. But how did they differ then? How they were worn, maybe then, or how they were adorned, or fashioned up a little bit versus what we might see now.
Well, I can just tell you how I wore it. Just
Mhm.
one of these rubber bands that was specifically designed for hair, because if you just use a plain old rubber band, it would cut your hair.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
would wear that, and it's just in this hot North Dakota summers, that was the way to go. Keep your hair off your face in a ponytail. And as far as this season, or this day and age, I don't know that I can tell you anything is different. Do you
I'm
have
re- I'm remembering all the scarves, the different scarves
in the
that were
50s?
worn around the ponytail. And remember Sandra Teacatch? She always wore a ponytail. She always had a beautiful scarf to wrap around her ponytail each time.
Yeah.
And do you recall some of the scarves that you might have had or that would have been popular then?
There were small square scarves,
Okay.
and and I would say I think maybe they're more plain and rather than pattern style. Although I do remember seeing a paisley, a print, a
Mm,
scarf.
hmm.
So maybe our viewers have better ideas about that,
True.
because you know they were more teenagers, and Janine and I were not teenagers. Most of the '50s we were not teenagers, but
Right.
our babysitters wore them, and they also wore scarves around their neck too. But that's another thing.
Mhm,
Little
mhm.
smaller scarf.
And of course, the scarf had matched what you were wearing on a top, a sweater or a blouse, as it was known back then. I don't think a woman wore a shirt. It was known as a blouse.
Right.
Uh,
Hmm.
but and then bangs. Didn't you usually have bangs too if you had a ponytail?
So, maybe some did. I did not have a bang. My
Okay.
hair was straight back. But I do remember as the girls that were a few years older, who were more into they were teenagers, they did. And sometimes they had little curls like here, like two little horns,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
with
Yes.
their,
Yes. How about barrettes? Were there barrettes to hold your strands of hair back? I don't think we ever saw any messy ponies back then, like we do now. You know, the mess. Everything was really slicked back. And how was that hair held back on the sides?
Well, for me, my hair was long, and it didn't. There weren't any strands that came out. Whereas today, young women pull strands out from the sides here, and they kind of have, you know, it's long feathered there. But no, we're always captured.
Okay. Well, of course, moving on. There was nothing like the era of the TONI Home Permanent. Viewers, ladies, do you remember that out there? Or maybe even there were some boys perhaps who had their TONI Home Perms. But oh, do you remember the agony of having those perms used on your hair?
Right. The agony and the terrible aroma, or yes.
Yes. But you know, it's almost like the after effect, the aroma was just secondary to how you looked after you had it. I mean,
that's right. I'm going
curly.
to refer to page. I'm going to refer to page 198 in our book. And I don't exactly know why this always happened. Like the week before we had school pictures, we would have a perm. Well, anyway, to quote, however, if mom wanted us to have curly hair without the need of scheduled time on the kitchen stool, a box of TONI Home Permanent offered everything needed for wash and go curl. Words on the box said sleek and smooth. A photo appeared showing the same thing. Therefore, we knew that our hair would resemble the photo after going through the process. The permanent solution stunk to high heaven. In addition, the final results of our home perm revealed nothing sleek and smooth. It was all frizz. That's what it was. And this result appeared each time we suffered from the agony of a home perm.
And anyway, it was agony. And it's interesting. I found on the internet a link to a woman who's now our age, but she also had gone through the agony of a TONI Home Perm, and how she described it. She had this beautiful hair to start with, but her mother and her grandmother insisted that she have a home perm because, again, they assumed it was going to turn out beautiful and sleek and just be an asset to this girl's hair. Oh my word, it didn't. It turned out frizzy. And the ending result was that she had to have her hair cut. It just was the death of her almost. What a tragedy. And I can imagine there were other young girls or young ladies at the time who felt the same way. You know, I'm wondering, mom even didn't she even give herself a TONI Home Perm, or did she have Lois over to come in and help her?
And why? And I'm just thinking now, why was this process repeated year after year when it was so undesirable? The results were not.
I think it was convenience. It was convenience because our hair could be washed and allowed to dry, and it would be curly and somewhat presentable, or else mom would comb it out and then pin curl it. And then when the pin curls dried and she brushed out our hair, and you'll see pictures of us in our book, While the Windmill Watched, after we had gone through that process, our hair was beautiful. It was sleek and beautiful, and I'm sure it stayed for in that style for a long time, just because it had the background of the perm there to hold it in place. So that might have been the method of mom's madness, why we all had to have it. You know, she was quite a worker around in our home and on the farm and taking care of us. And she was an active community leader. And so she wanted to have something such as hair care of the three ladies in the family, not to be a bother to her if possible. And I think that was the advantage in our family of a home perm.
So maybe talk about some of the products that evolved during that. So what comes to your mind?
Hairspray. And I think for me, the first brand that I recall was Aquanet. And I don't think mom used hairspray on us. I just remember seeing ads on TV for
Hmm.
it. Or also the Helena Curtis and Max Factor were the two most popular companies promoting hair care products for women. And that was such a new a new idea, a new blends of ingredients that were used to make hair care products in the 50s, coming out of the 40s when the styles were gorgeous. They were the 1940s was quite an in my mind an epic era for design of women's clothing and hair. It was
Very
just
classic.
yes, classy and beautiful. Those styles made women look beautiful. And then as we got into the 50s and then even closer to the 60s, when in clothing, dresses, waistlines started to disappear and the shift came about. And that
Mhm.
I think too, it was not only what you might say a shift in clothing, in dress design, but also a shift in hairstyles, became more relaxed and less beautiful
Less,
in
less
some
severe,
respects. Hmm.
less severe.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. What do you think of when you think of hair care products in the 50s?
Well, I think that it was an advent of chemistry being put to use for the women who at that time there was, I think probably there was more money to spend on frivolous things. Certainly hair products were frivolous. So I think that the chemistry really came into play. Besides the hairspray, there was the dippity doo and the other setting lotions, and there was the cream rinse. And if you used Breck, if you know, oh, weren't those Breck girls beautiful? They had beautiful skin
Mm.
and beautiful hair.
Yes, and I did a little research on Breck girls
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't remember who the Breck girl models were, but some of these and these names might sound a little familiar to you: Connie Selica, Jacqueline Smith, Charlie's Angels, Kim
Mm-hmm.
Basinger, Christy Brinkley. Basinger, okay, Christy Brinkley, model Christy Brinkley, Sybil Shepherd, and Cheryl Tiegs. Well, my
Mm-hmm.
goodness, they all went on to become most of them actors and or actresses rather, after having been in the advertising world for one of the products, of course, was the Breck shampoo or being a Breck girl. And I don't know, I've thought about this. That was being a Breck girl important to me because I saw such beauty in the photographs of these girls, or and at that age, with my Tony home perm, I was never going to be a Breck girl.
Oh,
But it was something that, and perhaps if I was a teenager, I might have thought a little bit differently about it. I might have associated myself a little more with those Breck girls and those hairstyles. But it certainly wasn't a style that I had as a youngster in the 50s.
mm-hmm.
And of course, wearing they had these beautiful. I mean, the photographs were phenomenal of these young ladies.
For sure, for sure, yes.
Hmm. Do you remember, Jackie, when associating hair and the hair care in the 50s with comfort, with pride, you might say, in the fact that we each had a comb and a soft hairbrush and a mirror that would sit on our dresser. And of course, it was recommended, what, 50 strokes a night we were supposed to brush our hair, or was it 100
Well,
strokes?
I think it was 100, and I remember that from Laura Ingalls Wilder books. 100 strokes for
Oh,
each night.
oh. Is that what she did in the book? Or is that what Ma did for each of her girls?
Well, that just the 100 strokes just sticks out for me, and maybe yeah, that's all I know. No, 100 strokes. But did you ever do that, Janine?
No. I had a Tony home perm. I didn't need you.
I don't remember that was stressed either.
Yes, probably one of the, we didn't, when I think of 100 beautiful brush strokes and with long hair, I think of sitting at this beautiful little dressing table with a mirror in front of me and relaxing and enjoying my hair. Well, we didn't have the dressing table. And we
We
didn't have the long hair to start with.
no,
But
but
yeah, go
keep
ahead.
going. I know where you're going.
A very neat memory for each of Jackie and me was through our grandma Pfeiffer. We would always go there to eat every Friday noon when Dad had his egg route in Bismarck, and this is when Grandma Pfeiffer lived in Bismarck on North 11th Street. After dinner, she'd make this wonderful dinner, and before we would leave to continue on with our day, Grandma would invite each Jackie and me to a one-on-one time. And this one-on-one time where we got to know her background a little better, and she just got to know what was going on in our lives a little bit better. But we would go into they had one little bathroom in that house, that 2-bedroom house, and she would run a certain amount of water in that sink. It wasn't much. We would close the lid on the toilet, which is right next to the bathroom sink. We'd sit there with our back to her, and she would dip that hairbrush just slightly in the water, and she would start stroking and brushing our hair. And then she'd start talking. Jackie, what did she talk about?
I think she often talked about when she was a little girl, and she was a great storyteller, a great storyteller. And I am really blessed to have a little granddaughter. She's 3 now. And so when she comes over, that's one of the things she said, Grandma, brush my hair, or Grandma, put it in braids, or Grandma, whatever. So we've started that tradition. And I have mentioned to her that this is what my grandma did. And
nice.
I want to tell her, and I do tell her about Grandma Justina. And then I sometimes go into things that, of my childhood, but I just want that to be a special, special time for us. And it's one of the special times we have, but thanks to my.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I tell you, when I would ask my daughters to brush my hair, they had no love of doing that, nor had my granddaughter. And I thought, oh, surely I could start a tradition with her. Nope, not to happen. But so unfortunately, I don't have that. And my beauty, my hair cutter, my hairdresser, she is so quick that she, even the massaging of the hair scalp, when you're getting your head washed, she's got to be in and on with it. So we don't get too much massaging of my scalp either. But there definitely is beauty to be made with proper hair care and proper hair care products that are best for your hair. Some that have made it through the 50s, and others that are no longer in use, no longer available. I'm sure different chemical makeups that are easier on the hair have come about, and those are the products that we use today. Do you buy your shampoo off of the drugstore counter or in the grocery store, or do you get yours from a beauty salon?
I use something that the beauty salon uses, but I can buy it at a retail store.
Oh, okay. Nice. I've just learned to stick with the product that works well for me, and I get that from my beauty operator, and I really like it because I have noticed if I run out of it and happen to use some VO5, which is what Fred uses, it makes it a totally different gives my hair a totally different texture and responds differently to a blow dryer.
Yeah.
So I guess you pick out which one works best.
Chemistry has improved many things. So I don't know. I think have we is there anything more to say about this?
Yes, one thing that I recall from that 50s era was when Linda Ehlers, one of our babysitters, went to beauty school in Bismarck. Do you remember that, Jackie? Yes. And so when it was time for us to get our haircuts, we would always go to the beauty school and have her cut our hair. And not only was it because Linda was there, but because it was a lesser price to pay for a haircut because she was a student. So that's what we went through then. And it was always fun to see Linda. And she always gave us a great haircut. And of course, in a beauty school, she would give the haircut, and then she'd have to have her director or supervisor come over and take a look at it to make sure that it was okay. But that was a neat memory. She was a wonderful, wonderful young lady. Really enjoyed her.
Okay,
So
so
I think we can wrap this up. And so for all the cookies out
yes,
there, we can encourage them to get rid of that comb and kiss the loved one in front of you.
yeah.
So, folks, we've just enjoyed having a fun chat with you about our crowning glory, our hair, and how, yes, how the styles have changed, how the chemicals have changed that go on our hair, how the products are used, the brushes, the combs, the whatever, the barrettes, the hair scarves that are used to make us all feel, women at least, feel beautiful, and I think men, it makes them feel great too. So until next time, when we have a new guest on our show, we encourage you to keep thinking of the 1950s when there were malt shops, when there were cool cars, and where there were unique hairstyles, and some of them were with Toni Home Perms.
And before you leave, folks, don't forget to push that little red subscribe button and also that little thumbs up button. We'd like to know that you're watching. So I feel that it's now. Go ahead, Janine.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that folks go to our website, whilethewindmillwatch.com, and you can find all of the interesting fun chats and so much more on that website. You can even find out where to purchase our book because it's in many places throughout the country, and also the NDSU bookstore will ship it anywhere. So you can find that information then on our website. Until next time, we hope you have a great week and we will see you then. Bye bye.